Trudeau. Trudeau need more tools to control misinformation. Oh, look at that, bloody hell, Joe Rogan, what's he going to do now? We've got to do something to stop all this misinformation. What do you mean they're trying to censor the voice of ordinary people? Rogan could say anything at any moment. Hello there, you 5.6 million awakening wonders. Thank you for subscribing to this channel and joining us on this voyage of political radicalism and spiritual optimism. For a long time, you've known something wasn't right, and it's finally becoming more and more evident that we've been lied to, tricked, and distracted. But now we are awakening, which coincidentally is the name of my side channel. If you enjoy the content on this channel, have a look at the Awakening channel where I do more spiritual stuff. You may not be able to watch it for long because I could do a disinformation there, in which case it'll be yanked off by that beautiful bouffant-wearing Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau. He's getting himself a new toolkit to control misinformation. Let's see what he's up to. Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has announced that the government is investing in new tools for security agencies to fight extremism and online misinformation. About time someone done something. Let's have a look.
There is no question that the world is changing rapidly and getting more dangerous.
And that's why I've rolled up my sleeves and loosened my tie. I'm like a guy, like you are a guy.
In new ways than ever before. When we look at the prevalence of misinformation, of disinformation.
Oh, there's been misinformation, disinformation, cisinformation, gisinformation, pissinformation, trisinformation, Chrisinformation. That's just information about Chris. You don't need to worry about that. Some of that is true, although I wouldn't like to offend Chris. I like Chris. I'm a fan of Chris. Justin Trudeau, I think, lost the right to be the boy band member who's been themed instead of around sport or wearing a backward cap around the concept of truth when he started banging up members of his own country for bibbing a horn on a truck and started advocating for shutting down the bank accounts of people that donated to a legitimate protest when he vilified people who were concerned about taking new medicines and created division in his own country. I don't think Justin Trudeau can just roll up his sleeves and seem a bit friendly like a good-looking substitute teacher and expect that we're all going to not remember what's been going on for the last couple of years. How do we know that the world's getting more dangerous? What if that's misinformation in itself? There's certain people that will tell you that the world's getting less dangerous, mortality rates, etc. Now, I don't think things are improving morally, ideologically, philosophically, and in terms of different types of social organisation and equality and democracy and power for ordinary people and the right to run your own lives. I would say there's real room for improvement there. But you can't just come out with some fear-mongering. It's like, oh, the world's more dangerous. The world's more dangerous. I'm actually thinking of rolling my sleeves right up to my neck for this one. This is how serious it's got. And you know what we should do about all this danger and disinformation and Chrisinformation and pissinformation and fisinformation? Give me more power. Let me be in charge. I'll handle it.
The way social media has been weaponized.
Also, where are you? Why are you doing this from outside the Waltons? The Waltons are so worried they're using their breadboard as a house sign.
Both by foreign actors.
Foreign actors? Who are you worried about? Gerard Depardieu? Gerard Depardieu, he looks like he's been doing some misinformation, because remember when his nose go along.
M'accuser d'un pareil ridicule petit, mon nez.
I think that's from disinformation.
And by people within Canada pushing extremist views, trying to foment anger and discord.
He done that himself. I watched him fomenting anger and discord with these people. They're like hooligans or terrorists that don't want to get this type of medicine done. This guy can't come on our TV sets telling us this kind of stuff, can he? And expect to be taken seriously, particularly not when we know that the end result will be the invoking of new powers that won't be revoked. Remember, he campaigned and lobbied to have emergency laws instantiated that had not been used since, like, I think, actual wars against actual Nazis. Oh, these people, they got trucks. That could be a Nazi. There's no way of knowing. These people, under the mask of liberalism, under the bouffant of friendliness, are always trying to push one clear agenda. Give us more power, give up your individual freedom so that we can support the interests of globalists, technocracies and corporations without the inconvenience of democratic intervention.
Whether it's extremist ideology and right-wing terrorism on the rise in Canada.
There's right-wing terrorists on the rise in Canada. I see a person with a truck the other day.
Or whether it's examples like the illegal protests we saw in the winter There are a whole new set of challenges that we need to be responding to. And that's why we're working closely with our national security agencies, working closely with organizations like the Canadian Security Establishment around communications.
The solution to the protest then, the trucker protests, which have been sort of casually daubed as right-wing, which look to me like a proletariat uprising of ordinary working Canadian people that didn't, as far as I could tell, in any real way express any right-wing sentiments. Of course, you know, if you have a protest, like if you have a football match, you can have someone might throw a can, someone might shout an unpleasant word. That is not a reason to foreclose democracy. Because if the reason for foreclosing democracy is some people say stuff sometimes, then forget democracy as a concept and just say what we want is a banal and banalising technocracy where you have no freedom. You exchange your freedom for security, or what we define as security. You're not going to have any control over your own life. You're going to live in a variety of boxes, primarily the mental box that we prescribe for you. Don't expect any freedom. Don't expect to control the outcomes of political processes. You'll just watch it from afar, while more and more legislation is introduced to inhibit and prohibit your ability to have a voice at all. Listen, here's an alternative theory. One theory, those truckers were right-wing. Okay, that's his theory. My theory is, if you call those truckers right-wing, you don't have to listen to them. What? All right, so as a mental experiment, what if they're not right-wing? Oh, well then that might mean they've got legitimate grievances, that they feel that they're not able to express themselves democratically in their country, and the only way they have a voice is to come together en masse. That's the only thing any of us have got anymore, is to start cooperating with one another. Not only was that trucker movement, in my opinion, not right-wing in any way that ought negate its relevance and significance. And by the way, being right-wing is just the perspective. It's just the perspective. It used to be that someone in your family, like your uncle or something, oh, he's right-wing, yeah, all right. Not like, get him out of society. That's a kind of cleansing. That's a homogenization that the left used to claim it was, again, inclusivity. What has it become? There's this momentum of tyranny that has emerged, this sort of certainty in what's correct, and it all comes from the top. You know this dude's one of the boys out of WEF, don't you? You know he's one of those people that went up through the WEF, Klaus Schwab, Davos apprenticeship. You're looking very good. You should be given your own country. Roll those sleeves up a little bit higher. Roll them up till I can see your collarbone. Oh, I don't like to cry.
To make sure that we are able to respond to these new realities. We're taking on more tools to keep Canadians safe.
You have to tell people that the world is terrifying in order that they're willing to give up their freedom. If people start to accept, yeah, look, guess what? People are sometimes right-wing. Sometimes people are racist. People are bloody idiots. People are all sorts of things. We are people. We're clumsy, we're greedy, we're selfish, but we're also compassionate and kind and intelligent and ingenious. And I'm not willing to give up my individual freedom or our collective freedom in order to become a unit in a technocratic tyranny that is currently being designed and offered to you. And people tell you, oh, it's a conspiracy. Well, it isn't really, is it? When treaties are being proposed to bypass democratic law in individual nations, that is centralized globalist ideology being instantiated before your very eyes. And so that it doesn't look like old-fashioned fascism where everyone's got crazy outfits on and wacky moustaches, like they bring out little darlings like him that you think, oh, there's nothing wrong with this guy. Look at his watch. Look at his friendliness. Look at his nice puffy haircut. This guy can't be a tyrant. He looks too friendly. That's what it looks like now.
Things that start online end up having impacts on the real world.
This is while Canadians are continuing to try to grasp what introduction of a unique national digital ID might mean and how it could affect their lives. It won't mean more freedom. It will mean the ability to capture your data, share that data, and use that data to manipulate your behaviour. It would create the potential to introduce some form of credit scoring down the line. And in the advent of a centralised currency, it could be used to totally control your reality and exclude you from parts of society by denying you access to vital resources. That's what could happen. I'm not saying it will happen. I don't believe in conspiracy theories, things that have just been made up or whatever. I'm just watching what's happening, like you, and paying attention. The plan to digitise people's identities with biometrics containing some of the most sensitive personal information is prepared to be rolled out in some parts of the country, with Ontario currently appearing to lead the way. Top of the list of the reasons the authorities mentioned to convince citizens that the electronic version of a number of their ID documents is a good idea: convenience. What would be most convenient is if you could just put a QR code on my forehead, just scan me when I'm born, fling me in the grave when I'm dead, and hopefully I won't be too much trouble. Next, the government in Ontario says that digital ID will also be safer, more secure, and even better for privacy. In the end, it comes down to how willing somebody is to take their government's word for it and trust their biometric information is not only protected from the security and privacy point of view, but that the government itself would not abuse it under some circumstances. Do you remember that during the pandemic, when the notion of vaccine passports was introduced, you were told that it was specific, topical, local, and only relevant to the issue of the pandemic? That as soon as the pandemic's over, we'll put aside these crazy ideas about digital IDs and look what's happening now. Oh, there's so much misinformation. We've only just got rid of COVID, sort of, and now we've got all this bloody misinformation. People are coughing misinformation, disinformation, piss-information, kiss-information, all over each other. We're going to need them IDs again. Do you just want IDs for some reason that you're not willing to tell us because it's a bit nefarious and we might not comply with it? No, oh no, that would be disinformation, that one. All these points come into the debate that is now happening in Canada, with some pushing for the scheme to be implemented as soon as possible and as widely as possible, while others are calling for a cautious approach given the potential pitfalls. Digital ID will be used for government services and things like opening bank accounts, applying for government loans, filing taxes, buying property, all the way to employee background checks and picking up prescription drugs. Could I use my digital ID to make a donation to a protest I agreed with, even if the government didn't agree with it? You certainly could. And would you not then use that to shut down my right to buy prescription drugs, open bank accounts? Oh, no, God, no. Are my shirt sleeves not... Look how high they are. Look how nice and friendly. Look, give me some more hairspray. According to DIACC polls, at least most Canadians want digital IDs, but they at the same time also want to maintain control over their personal information. So essentially what has to happen is people have to be terrified into a state where digital IDs seem convenient. I bet you could scare me enough to get one. Like, if you scare me enough, I'll comply with you. If you beat me up and threaten me and terrify me, take away my natural sense of ease in the world and the sense I have that I'm entitled to be here and I'm part of communities and I'm part of the planet and I'm not better than anybody, but I'm not worse than anybody, that I don't need some centralised sovereign force to protect me all the time because the world's so full of bogeymen and different people and right-wing fascists or whatever it is that week that you need to vilify in order to keep people terrified. Of course people will be compliant. But if you ask people, do you want to grant more power to your government that can then choose how they use that power down the line? And let me tell you right now, the kind of relationships that they're cultivating with corporations, big tech, non-democratic, centralised globalist organisations like the WF and WHO means that they might sooner or later be accepting the agenda of organisations like that. In fact, to a degree, they already are doing that. Treaties are being proposed. Then perhaps you will be less willing to grant them the ability to shut down your bank account at a whim because you disagree with them. In the end, this becomes a tool to prevent dissent, because our dissent is the only thing that can prevent them from fulfilling their agenda, because most of the power interests in the world are now neatly aligned. They're coming together. They're coalescing beautifully. Whatever you think about the pandemic, it was certainly very convenient for some very powerful interests. That's not a conspiracy theory. There was a massive wealth transfer. We can see that. Regulations have been introduced that, as predicted, aren't being rescinded. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to say that. But why don't you let me know what you think in the comments below? Do you trust these people? Are they friendly liberals that just want what's best and better equality and more friendliness and to shut down misinformation and make sure there's no extremism and all that stuff? And what do you think about these terms? And how do you feel about being labelled in that manner? And do you yourself personally feel willing to be in conversation and discourse with people that have different views from you, so that you now don't require some centralised agency that's preventing you from seeing stuff that might hurt your feelings? Are you willing to be in that conversation? I'm willing to be a part of it if you are as well. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And remember to subscribe to my channel. We need your support. We need your data. We don't need your data. I don't think we get it. Actually, it belongs to YouTube. But we need your support. We certainly need that. So please subscribe to our channel. It really helps us. And watch either of these videos or both of them if you enjoyed this one. And please sign up to our mailing list. Then we can communicate with you directly should we ever need to. As long as Justin Trudeau don't turn up with his toolkit. So I'm like, well, what you have in that? Let's get those bloody sleeves a little higher. Hey, more important than any of that stuff is that you please stay free.